What is up, theology nerds? This is Trip, and I'm here with my friend, the BoDaddy. Oh, yeah. You didn't hear that air horn. The BoDaddy. And we got a little surprise today, Bo.
Okay, I'm looking at a special guest here.
Yes, Josh Patterson is right here from the Rethinking Faith Podcast, regular commenter during these live streams. And a few weeks ago, I volunteered you for the 20 questions game.
Yeah.
And it just turns out that Josh is in my house this morning. So this is your surprise. You're going to get grilled. You're getting the 20 questions right now.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We're going to get intimate.
Wow.
20 questions.
Good thing that I didn't do any research on our planned topic.
Well, that's why I didn't send you my outline. But if you answer questions real quick, then
that is hilarious. Oh, this is great.
I will tell you all about it.
It was harder. It was harder to get added to this restream than it was to get into a Pete Hegseth's text ring.
Well. Oh, look at this. Lori, listen to your sermon.
Oh, thanks, Lori. I had fun with that sermon. You know, it's funny. When I was planning the Daniel series, I knew the first 9 immediately what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I was going to do with that 10th one. And I actually bought the Daniel for Everyone with Golden Gay in the N.T. Wright series and a couple other Daniel commentaries to try and figure out what I wanted to do with that. But I ended up just going my own way. So I'm glad that you listened. I'm glad that you thought it went well. I got a lot of good feedback.
Yeah. You know what's bad is when you're all excited and did something like that, and then it's just crickets.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like,
I've had that.
Did people not realize that I was pioneering new ground with this text?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't really pay to be innovative.
Oh, no. Well, Josh, now, you know that you do this on Rethinking Faith. Do you want to set up what's about to happen?
Sure. Yeah. So,
you should introduce yourself for people that may not know you.
Oh, cool. I'm Josh. I do a podcast,
but you have to actually use a microphone. I know
how microphones work, I think. But yeah, so my name is Josh Patterson. I'm the host of the Rethinking Faith podcast. And sometimes when I want to have a little bit of fun and break up some of the, overt nerdiness, we'll do a thing called 20-ish Qs, where I bring on a guest and I have about 20 questions, sometimes maybe a little bit more, 20-ish, 20 adjacent. And some of them are serious. Some of them are silly. Some of them are personal. Some of them are whatever. And so I just see what happens.
All right. Yeah. Josh, by the way, is the X-Pac of the Degeneration X.
I'll take it.
I'll be Kevin Nash.
You just want us to call you the big sexy. I know.
That's what I was going for.
Well, I did. So I wore this specific shirt on purpose, knowing I was going to see Trip, because this is a main event Jey Uso shirt, who is a current WWE superstar that Trip does not like. He thinks he's annoying. And so I intentionally wore it.
He's going for the heavyweight title at WrestleMania. And he basically, Bo, if you watch him do his ring entrance, it's the equivalent of a mega church youth minister hyping up, the youth group that has enough money. They were like, let's put this in smoke machines. Let's do it for the Lord. Like he's basically like a righteous gemstones youth minister.
Oh my
God. And he just gets everyone to yell the word yeet all the time.
Oh, great.
And I assume that yeet, there's an acronym for something.
Okay.
It's spiritual.
It's code switching.
Yeah.
By the way, one of my favorite follows on Instagram is this. It's called Mega Church Worship Fails or something like that. It is so painful and cringy. It's unreal.
Yeah, I also follow them. The ones that are the worst, though, is when people can't sing. Like, I can't sing. I know I can't sing, so I don't. And these people that sing and can't and shouldn't, I know they're making a joyful noise into the Lord, but some noises don't need to be made.
Unreal, man.
You don't have the same hermeneutic God does. You're like, what? Some joyful noises are best left private.
Yes.
Not shared and amplified.
In your closet, go and pray in secret. That's where you make your joyful noise. Yeet. All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, on top of his song, Bo.
Yeah.
Where he's just like doing this number and everyone's doing it. Yeah. And yeet, 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 yeet. When he's just, talking smack. What is the phrase y'all?
The Uso bit?
Yeah. No, on the what do y'all call it when wrestlers are just like,
when they're super talking? Over? Oh, like, I don't know, doing it when they're smack talking, just talking trash.
I know on the wrestling podcast, he's promo.
Yeah, cutting a promo.
Cutting a promo. Sometimes he just wants everyone in the crowd to yell, so he'll like pause and be like, Trip is here to do the 20 questions.
Yeet.
And then everyone in the auditorium's like, yeet. And you're just like, he pioneered that at a youth retreat.
It's like the Stone Cold yes, or like what? Not yes. Sorry, Ryan's going to kill me for messing that up. Stone Cold will say what? He'll talk and they'll go what?
Yeah, but see, Stone Cold is like the guy that's married to someone that goes to your church every Sunday that you go hunting with twice a year because he told his wife he would do something religious.
Drink beers in the parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah. He's only at the fish fry and he's never actually been in worship, but he volunteers for stuff just to be seen. And in the memorial garden right out the back of the church kitchen, he leaves his beer and cigarettes. So he just kind of like walks out there and everyone's like, oh, he's just a big volunteer, but you've never seen him in a worship service. And he probably, if he's in North Carolina, skips church during the ACC tournament. That's
we had this
I had those people at my church.
We had almost this exact scenario a couple months ago at church. We had a young family. They wanted to dedicate their baby. And this guy that you're talking about, first time I've ever met him, and he was in the service. And at one point, he got up to go, I thought go to the bathroom. It turns out he's anti-tattoo.
Oh.
And my sermon was about how Christian tattoos are always word-based because we don't trust images. And how we always have to, like, if you walk into a mega church, outside their coffee shop on the big wall, there's always going to be like a beautiful, like a nature painting, but then underneath it'll tell you what you're supposed to get out of it, like peace or patience,
Yeah,
like
can't let you figure that one out yourself.
Yeah. So my sermon was about how we're logocentric and how the words that we have inherited form us, inform us, and have the potential to transform our interaction with the world. I thought it was a really, really fun sermon, but I didn't know. No one told me he was anti-tattoo.
Watch out. You got to direct people when they look at a photo. And it's not just Protestants. It's also elementary school classrooms. You see a cute cat and you're like, what are we going to do with this cat? Oh, hang in there. Look at him. He's got his claw working. Oh, man, I was trying to memorize my multiplication tables and I wanted to give up when I got to the sixes. They get so confused.
Hang in there.
And then I thought of that cat. And I was like, it's like Puss in Boots. No, it's not. It says hang in there. It's an invitation for perseverance in the face of multiplication tables.
Yeah.
Thank God.
A gentle exhortation.
I'm just glad they labeled it. I was going to get distracted by Puss in Boots. And then
I would know what
about Antonio Banderas. And then the next thing you know, I'm thinking of movies he's actually in. And then it skips around and somehow I'm thinking about Selma Hayek. I don't know what happened. But now that it said hang in there, I got it.
You know what that makes me think of? There's an amazing website called The Work of the People that our friend Travis does. And he does these visual liturgies. They're like the best thing I mean, around here we have a lot of digital subscriptions, online subscriptions. That's the best money we spend ever is for those videos. And but you can download them either with the text that comes up on the screen, but I prefer to download them without the text so that people can just reflect either on the music,
it's a gateway to Catholicism,
the message, or just the images, just interact with the images. But one time I downloaded one, and I guess the text on the screen isn't the same as what the narrator is saying. And it exposed a generational gap. Everyone 60 and older could not handle this video. It drove them crazy that the words on the screen weren't the words that the narrator was saying or the lyrics of the song. It drove them crazy.
And you know what? That would have been a good time to have a cool picture of a cat in the side of your sanctuary. And it's just like, hang in there.
Yes.
You want to know funny thing about, so Travis has come to a couple events, like when I was at Claremont and stuff, but he came to the Big Tent Christianity event in North Carolina.
Okay.
And after it, we have this like giant bonfire party thing with a bunch of the people that are there. And over the course of the evening into the early morning, at some point, like the Brian McLaren and stuff, they go. And then it's like Tom Ord's still there and Nadia Boltz-Weber, and then they go. And then it's like down to the like 35 and under 1 a.m. And we were full.
I used to be a part of that.
And he was like, let's make a video. And it's probably 1 a.m, Bo. I'm fully invested.
Yes.
And this video is never on the work of the people, but he definitely edited it and put music underneath it and sent it to me. And it is one of the funniest things. I experienced what it would be like to room with me and somehow get me talking at 1 a.m. when we should be asleep.
Oh boy.
And I did this number so many times where I'm just
but you were still spouting the knowledge.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say knowledge.
Okay.
And he was like, so what's the metaphor of homebrewing Christianity? And he's like, well, what's your least favorite light beer Christianity? And I go on this rant about Mark Driscoll. Well, it's funny. I might have exaggerated a few things at that point. Turns out, no,
you may have understated it.
I was prophesying.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're speaking prophetically.
Yeah.
Some Gnostic wisdom.
Gnostic wisdom. That's where you go.
Gnosis.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, Josh.
By the way, before we get started, just one word of advice to you two. Never get stuck in an elevator with Travis.
Oh, God. I don't think we can tell that story out here. But you should remind me when we get done, and I'll tell you.
Elevators.
If he gets on the elevator, just tell him you'll catch the next one.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so funny. All right. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
All right. You should ask him a question.
All right. I'll ask him.
I'm just going to tell you after. I've just thought more about this than decided.
Can I say well,
you say what you're in charge now.
All right. Well, I was going to tell a joke earlier about the hang in there thing with the cats, but I don't know. It might get me kicked off the live stream. So, but like I was picturing when you're talking, like someone in school doing, the hang in there bit. But imagine like a little kid in Sunday school class, and they like look up and it's like the hang in there poster, but the cat is on a cross.
Jeez. Oh my goodness.
So like what did that like, do you think like the upper room would publish something like that, Bill, in the method?
I think the Babylon Bee would.
All right, I won't say anything like that again, I promise.
Hey Josh, do you know someone named AI Patterson?
Yeah, that's my dad. Yeah. Hi, Dad. Well, I'm going to get in trouble for making a crucifixion joke for cats. but
well, it is Lent.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's thematically appropriate.
Yeah, it's liturgically on brand.
Also, become all things to all people. I'm sure people listening have cats. Cats want to see themselves in the liturgy. I don't think it's a problem. Yeah. Anyway, first question in 20's Q's, Bo. I'll start. I'll be nice. I'll give you an easy one, and one that'll highlight your line of work. So, what do you wish more people knew or understood about being a pastor?
Oh man. That it so it's a calling. It doesn't originate with you, and therefore it existed before you started and will outlast you. Just handle it well in the moment, in the years that you have, and don't make it about you. And even if it is rewarding, it can't be your whole identity. Yeah, it's not you. It's the work of God's Spirit. And so yeah, I have something very specific in my head, but I'm trying not to, share too many details.
Oh.
If people get their worth and value out of the affirmation or success of ministry, it doesn't go well. I mean, it's fruit that spoils quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll follow that by, this is a bit of a fun one. I'm going to give you 3 people, and you have to choose which one of them is your new associate pastor.
Oh yeah.
All right. You could use one, and you have to pick one of these 3 people and then explain why them and why not the others. All right.
Okay.
So you get Stephen Furtick, okay, John Piper, and Mark Driscoll. Who is your new associate pastor and why?
Oh boy. As tempting as Furtick is, because he would come with a following and a platform, I think I have, and Driscoll's too erratic and bombastic. I think I got to go. Did you say John Piper or John MacArthur?
Piper.
Yeah, MacArthur problematic because of the whole covering up kitty toucher thing.
Yeah.
I think generationally, I got to go with Piper. He would bring something to the team that is lacking, and maybe some stability in pastoral presence and visitation.
Oh God. Just the idea of him being your associate minister is funny. Could you just imagine? I imagine purgatory for Piper is being a Methodist.
Yeah,
right.
That's hilarious.
He spent a career popularizing the worst version of the Reformed tradition, and then St. Peter's hey, okay, look, I know you didn't anticipate this, but actually there's a rather big wideness in God's mercy, and we thought a way to help you understand this is just a few years as an associate minister at a Methodist church with the BoDaddy, and you get Piper's like, WTF.
Yeah, that's hilarious. He a trip. I know that you are aware of what steeplejacking is, but I think he would initiate pulpit jacking.
Yeah.
He'd try and take that bad boy over.
Jesus is super jacked.
But you only can let him preach on prevenient grace. That would be a part of his
just a one-trick pony. Yeah, the 3 Sundays a year I'm gone. That's what he would do.
Yeah, but it would be you would definitely not leave on July 4th like most mainline Protestant senior ministers, because you're just worried. You're like,
oh my God,
I can't let that guy take this one.
Oh my gosh. I have so many funny stories that I've heard, because in our appointment system, we all start July 1 as the beginning of our appointment. And for many, it's not only a communion week, but it's a patriotic service. And they show up and just think, where have I landed?
Yeah. Amen.
All right. Well, I'll throw, this one's a little bit more challenging, Bo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have to ditch a book of the Bible. Ooh. It can be any book you want, but you have to get rid of one. Which one and why?
Oh my goodness. All right, this is so interesting. Let me think real quick.
Ditching the Bible.
Well, if I say Genesis, then that can come off as anti-Jewish, so I don't want to say that. But how interesting would it be if we didn't have that origin story? I wonder what else would happen, right? So that was an interesting one.
It'd be like Psalm 104 is the main creation text.
Right. Revelation, I know a lot of people would get rid of, but I think if read well, it still speaks today. And actually models for us a prophetic imagination. So I think I'd keep that. I like James. Let me think. What if? I love Galatians. I was gonna say John because it's so different than the other synoptics, but I think that it brings up a complexity and a variance that's helpful. So I'm gonna go. All right. What about Acts? I'm going to go Romans.
All right.
Yeah. That way.
John Piper's super different now.
That way, both Luther and Bart have to find something else to do.
Oh.
Well, Trip, you do know, like, there's a new book out on Romans by this certain publishing company and these two authors that have no biblical training or scholarship. And they figured out how to read Romans the correct way because everyone else is dumb except them.
Well, that's good.
You should get them on the podcast.
I can't wait.
Oh, you know what? What if we got rid? Well, I was gonna say no, never mind. I was gonna go with like 2 Timothy or Titus because of the slave component.
Well, and it doesn't really like shorten things, you know?
Yeah.
Like, well, Titus.
No, it doesn't abbreviate it much at all.
Is Titus ever even in the lectionary? Like, it might. If it, you know, it'd be funny. An experiment is to remove Titus from every Bible in a church and see how many years it takes for anyone to notice.
That is hilarious. It's probably, if it is in there, it's probably year C and in July.
Yeah. It's like we're gonna put this in the green time when people are on vacation.
With Romans gone, Bo, what would you? So now you get to canonize any written document to replace Romans. What are you canonizing?
Well, we would have to find it first, but at the end of 1 Corinthians, it says, "As in my first letter to you." I would really like the real 1 Corinthians.
Right on.
You know what I've always thought about that bit. Your dad wants Leviticus.
Your dad
you know how Derrida has this whole bit where he talks about years later people are going through Nietzsche's stuff and he finds a note in his desk that says, "I went for a walk and forgot my umbrella," something like that. It was like relatively this aside, and he's like, "You could take this as the key and rework everything in Nietzsche's own writing. Like, what if this is the key to understanding it, or this text is not talking about his output at all, right? Like the umbrella is not like his self-reflection on the geist of his work or anything. It's just, I should remember to bring my umbrella." And so you could do that. You could actually write a commentary on this letter we don't have.
Yeah.
You could just be like, Derrida told me Derrida could do it to Nietzsche. I can do it to Paul's Corinthians correspondence that got put in the junk folder.
If we couldn't find the real 1 Corinthians, another candidate for me would be this book called Warrior, King, Magician, Lover, The Archetypes of a Man. It's a Jungian archetypal look at masculinity. Now, I know some people may be like, that's very male centric. Here's the thing. But if we had a healthier masculinity, then we could smash the patriarchy, which is unhealthy for all of us.
Wow. I don't know. I was thinking maps of meaning.
Yeah. Have you heard the latest trend in masculinity? Apparently, if you're an alpha male, you're supposed to shave off your eyelashes because eyelashes are feminine.
Really?
Yeah. And so what I've learned,
eyebrows or eyelashes?
Your eyelashes. You know the things that protect your eyeballs? Yeah. Apparently, they're woke. They have to go.
Oh.
In fairness, I did this one time, but by accident. My allergies were so bad that my eyelashes were sticking together, and I used my little Swiss Army knife to trim them, I didn't think anyone would even notice. And if anyone noticed.
Bo started the trend.
Oh my.
But what I learned is that these alpha males are comfortable in recognizing that sometimes there are features of our body that don't make us feel like our gender.
Yeah.
And they're okay with changing them to live into a more masculine presentation. So they're learning.
Oh my.
I'm not allowed back, but I'm going to see myself out.
Yeah, you should just ask him a question.
Well, actually, I thought you should ask him a question.
This is fun.
Throw one at him.
Let's see, what kind of question do I want to ask Bo? Okay, Bo.
Yeah.
We have ended up in hotel rooms a bunch of times together.
Yeah.
When we left home together, what's the most awkward moment you can think of? Or you could pick silliest, but like some story Josh will have never heard of something weird that happened with us when we were not at home. Some weird thing we went and did together.
It was actually not in a hotel room. It's when we couldn't get into our hotel room, and we got stuck down in the lobby. And we ended up causing such a ruckus because people kept coming in and sitting with us and having refreshments. And it got so rowdy and out of control, and we couldn't get a hold of Doug Paget, who was supposed to let us into our room. But it turned out that he had actually given the key, I think, at the front desk. But like, I forget that we were supposed to give some name, but we didn't know that. And we ended up making a mess of the lobby in the hotel because we were sat there for hours.
Yeah. And like people that were at the event, they had rooms and stuff, would go to check in, and then we just start talking to them. But isn't that when like Mark Scandrette showed up with the because he was like carrying a handle of Evan Williams, and
like, it got so bad at one point that I tried to recreate the poem that the New Jersey poet laureate got fired for after 9/11. If you guys remember that controversial poem, I did a presentation of it, and it was bad.
It was just like funny because we had nowhere to go. We couldn't go to our room, but it's clear we're a part of this event that everyone's staying there because every speaker and people coming to it all would just come up and start talking to us. And then slowly we're just like, well, I guess we'll just hang out. And after enough time, you're like, why can't we have a party in the lobby? We can't go to our room.
Yep.
Game on. Start ordering pizza to be delivered to a hotel lobby.
The other memory that comes to mind is not at a hotel room, but a tent at Wild Goose West.
A number of things that happened at tents at Wild Goose West.
Trip had driven up the equivalent of, I'm going to guess, 144 samples of homebrew.
Yeah, me and Greg Stevens drove my little Hyundai Accent with no cruise control. I didn't know it didn't have cruise control till we left LA because you would never use it in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, Wild Goose West, it's in Corvallis, Oregon. It's just over the border. I didn't know that, this was not smartphones. I didn't put it in Google Maps and it's like 11 hours. No, I was just, it's just over the border.
Just up
it would have been just as easy to drive to New York City from North Carolina. So And the Wild Goose West was the only time they did it on the West Coast. And they're like, we need something to do at night. And I've just volunteered. I was like, Bo and I organize a podcast every night.
Nice.
And then I was like, we're going to have a live band play and do it like a late night show. And our friend Austin Roberts got some of his friends that are professional musicians. So we're like doing music and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to brew beer. And so I like home brewed, and there's hundreds of 12-ounce beers in our car, along with our camping stuff and music equipment. So, it's barely off the ground. And we get there. Here's the best part. I get uncomfortable driving over bridges.
Okay.
So when we got to the Bay Area and we're going over this bridge, I'm like, Greg, you're gonna have to drive now. They're grates over one of these bridges. You're driving over grates. So if you look out the window, you can see the bay or whatever is underneath it. I'm like, no basket. I can't do this. So I get out. Greg's now driving, and then I just fall asleep. So he's now driving for hours. Like late at night.
Wow.
We're going out of this mountain and we hear, wow. We get pulled. I'm waking up. This cop comes up to the window. Now, just look at the two of us and music equipment, camping gear, and hundreds of homebrewed bottles of beer. And this guy pulls up, rolls down the window, and looks at Greg. He goes, "Where are you going, Earnhardt?" And Greg's like, the brakes in this car don't work with this much stuff in it. And oh man, it was
an old car too.
Oh, it died. One of the church members was uncomfortable with me ever riding around students. So they sold me a different car for whatever I could afford. And then I just sold that one. And then a month later, it blew up.
Jeez. Well, when I brought all that beer to beer camp 3 years ago, I was nervous driving because I had 20 cases of beer and 4 kegs in the back of my Crosstrek, driving over state lines. Yeah, I covered it with a nice blanket.
Wow.
But I still have pictures of the refrigerators overflowing with process party at Will's church.
Dude, we ended up camping next to John Cobb's grandson.
Oh, snap.
We didn't know it. And then when I realized Jonathan Cobb was John Cobb's grandson, I'm pretty sure I creeped him out.
You were, it was a type of like fanboy stalking that really, he was uncomfortable.
Yeah, but we're still Facebook friends, so.
Okay.
All right, Josh.
Throw another one at him. All right. Well, here you were talking about, this inspired by your hanging in the lobby story. You get to get, filled with the Spirit with any member in church history. So you're going to go to the bar, have a few drinks with whoever you want, and then at the end of the night, you two are going to fight another member of church history. That can be physical or verbal, up to you. Interpret it as you want, but who are you drinking with, and then who you guys throwing down?
Oh boy. Oh man, this is interesting. Well, I would never pass up the opportunity to spend some time with Tolkien.
What's the Tolkien rule? Is there enough time passed? Is it an hour?
Oh yeah, you brought it up before an hour into the podcast.
I didn't know that was a rule. Okay.
Good answer.
Yeah, I would just never pass that up. And let's think. What's the rule on who we fight?
Anyone in church history.
Christopher Columbus.
There you go.
You're like,
that's the first.
You're like, Tolkien, this fool has been corrupted by the powers of Mordor. He's all gone Boromir on this junk. He thought he was doing it to fulfill his vocation as a protector of Gondor, but no, he's been corrupted by the ring. He wants to seize the power for himself. He thinks he can use it for good, but that's not how colonialism works. He saw the new world and he said, "My precious."
Yeah, if I could push Christopher Columbus off the bow of his boat before he discovered anything, I think I would do the world a favor.
Yeah, and you're like, you know what you're doing in purgatory? You're the associate minister for John Piper.
I might also go after Dante.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But I feel like Dante is one of those things. All kind of depends on how you read it. It's just like he's one of those people where like people really read him so poorly. You're like, did we have to do this?
Well, I would say to Josh's dad the same for Leviticus. I think people read it so poorly, but read properly, there's a tender-heartedness of God trying to protect God's people.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
All right. Well, Bo, what's a popular Christian doctrine that needs to die?
It's not the whole doctrine, it's just half of it. It's the difference between inspiration and infallibility. They have become merged, right? They got amalgamated, and the difference between them needs to it needs to be clarified. So I would say infallibility needs to die, even though yeah, let's go with infallibility.
Reasonable.
Yeah. Because inerrant is the problem, right? It's that people think there's no error, that it's inerrant, but if we just went with the real definition of infallibility, and Tripp hates when I do this, but it means that it will not fail to accomplish that for which it was given. That's technically and I think infallibility is good, but I think we have to get rid of inerrancy.
That's fair.
Yeah, he's trolling me.
Well, all right. Well, in similar fashion, what is the most difficult aspect of your own faith that you had to rethink?
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, it has to be the problem of evil and the doctrine of sin. Because I was raised in a holiness denomination, we took sin really seriously, but I think that it traumatized me a little bit as a youth because I wasn't, I was a regular teenager, but I always felt bad for just being human, sort of thing. And then had to learn. I learned really. I tell my wife this all the time. If you have my personality, if you're a sensitive heart and a self-reflective person, you shouldn't be raised evangelical in a holiness denomination. It's a bad fit, and it makes you self-conscious and shame based in a way. It's just, I had to redo that whole thing.
I mean, problem of evil was my entryway into the slippery slope of open and relational theology that ultimately led me to become a process person. So,
you're one of those.
I am one of those.
Somebody, by the way, or your dad asked if I rap. The answer is no, because that's cultural appropriation.
Nice. All right, dude.
What?
Yeah, that threw me. Here, all right. Here's a fun one. Why are you not an atheist?
Oh, what a that's a fantastic. That's not a fun one. That's the deepest one. 2 reasons. One is I have had some very, very powerful experiences. And because of people like Paul Ricoeur and the concept of second naivete, I just feel so fortunate that I've been able to circle back and hold on to my faith even though I interpret those experiences different, that I don't need to explain them away or poo-poo on them, that I'm not embarrassed that I was charismatic and like really, really into it. So that, I mean, the one thing is just my experiences, right? And when you are a Wesleyan, that's my theological orientation, you get to have this thing called the Wesleyan quadrilateral that integrates experience and lets those experiences inform they're a location of revelation. So I would say my experiences are one thing. The other thing is when I read feminist or post-colonial perspectives theologically, I understand that there is a generous, ironic, much larger view of the divine, eternal, transcendent than I could possibly engage or explain, and it just fills me with wonder.
Yeah, I want to ask you a follow-up to that, specifically around like the decolonial stuff, and reading from like womanist perspectives, liberation theology, these kind of things. One thing that comes to mind often for me, and I've talked about this ad nauseum with Adam Clark, because I always ask him this question, and I'm never satisfied with the answer that he gives me. But within like that tradition, I always ask, like, why is open and relational thought or process thought not more appreciated and accepted within this tradition? Because for me, if I was an oppressed person and I could have the notion that like, oh, God isn't willing this or causing it, but rather like is actively, present in each moment, luring creation forward. Why would I not take that option? Like, if God could free me from slavery and chooses not to, I don't want to worship that God. And I'm like, Adam, help me understand. But
I think I know.
You have.
I think I know an answer, a response to this. Because of my friendship with Randy Woodley and those he has introduced me to in the North American indigenous theological world, if I had to guess, this is what I think. Randy and his friends might say something like this: when you already have pre-converting to Christianity in your culture, you already have a vocabulary and a worldview, a cosmology, a metaphysic, and then you convert, you become a Christian, or however that looks. So now you've added a second layer to that. And so then to go on to have to learn an entirely new vocabulary that's also English based, right? And it framed in a Western perspective, if you want to go with that, that would be a third layer that you'd be adding, you'd be like tripling, right? Versus just doing Christianity well.
There you go.
Right? It actually, if you decolonize your Christianity, you have the raw data, you have the ingredients already for a good thing. So like for Randy, let's say if you are a First Nations person and you follow whatever in your tribe or culture is the harmony way, right? Randy would call it shalom in the community of creation. That's his book. And you become a Christian, right? Maybe in a good way, then you already have complicated it and layered and in a way that you don't want to do that again a third time. So that would be my suspicion is we're not even doing regular Christianity that well. Why would we then also add this philosophical, linguistic extra layer to it where you have to learn an entirely third vocabulary? And yeah, that would be my guess.
Yeah, I don't know. The conversation with Adam is super interesting. And that's definitely a part of it. Like we talked about the, like basically having the ability to sit around and form philosophical concepts and ideas is like a privilege when like you're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Is a whole different story. So I don't know. I was curious because I still get hung up on that. I think
Randy would probably say something about, well, just do Christianity well. Don't make it more complicated.
Yeah. That's fair enough. All right, Trip, do you have a question that you want to throw his way?
Let's see. Bo, who's someone that you like, what's a thinker that you think is really, really wrong, but you're glad they're really, really wrong because you love to wrestle or engage or think with them?
I'm gonna say Tim Keller.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
I have I am so jealous that A, he is so influential, and B, so prolific.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish he had better theology, like more complicated and engaged. Although, by the way, there's somebody in my Wednesday night Bible study who said that Tim Keller has a new book out about, I think it's about evangelizing atheists, that is like truly helping this guy. And so now I'm like, I wonder how that works. Anyway, I would have to say Tim Keller.
Did he write it? How does he have a new book out? Was it like in progress prior to him passing away?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Like,
either that or someone's channeling Keller, which,
maybe it's just new to this guy. I don't know the story. It just really intrigued me.
Yeah.
So here's a funny note about Tim Keller. My father was a seminary professor who he ran the Doctor of Ministry program at his seminary. And once in a while, they would let master's level students in the last year of their program, they could take upper level classes. And so sometimes he had master's level students in the D-Min classes. They actually had to make a rule that you weren't allowed to quote Tim Keller in a seminary paper, because especially if you were Korean or Presbyterian, sometimes the papers would be just book reports. Like the entire bibliography would just be 6 Tim Keller books. So I'm sort of intrigued. Like I'm a little jealous of that guy.
Oh my. There are certain figures I wish I could have outlawed at the University of Edinburgh in the philosophy of religion papers, where I'm like, oh, it's one of these papers.
All right, should I throw him another one? Let's see. All right, this is fun. So if Jesus were to appear before you right now physically, what question do you want to ask him?
Oh man, what question would I ask him?
And if you want to like make it more fun, you could differentiate between the historic Jesus and Christ of faith.
All right,
so you could do that.
All right, I think this is probably my biggest question. Islam didn't exist for 700 years after Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
They celebrate the prophet Isa, right? As a prophet, a revelation of God, a revealer. But they don't believe that God has any children. Muslims don't. And so our language around the Son of God being relational language, I would love to ask him the Muslim question. Like, is Allah your Abba? That's what I would ask.
That's a good one.
It's the same God, right? It's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah, in theory, yeah.
Right. I just want to make sure.
It'd be, and then you're like, and the follow-up, which is more annoying? And you like name like some kind of like some like health and wealth, like is Joel Osteen or Muhammad, and you start going through the list.
Yeah.
And just so you hear him say like how annoying some of these Christians are. It's just like,
I think it would.
Oh, that's worse. It's worse.
Because I live in an LDS area, I think I would also, if I didn't get to ask the Muslim question, my backup plan would be to ask about between the crucifixion and the resurrection. He didn't come to North America, right?
You're like, I just wanted to check.
That wasn't you, right?
But what if you asked it in a presumptive way? Where he has to, you get to see how awkward Jesus would make a disagreement. Where you're just like, so, when you visited North America.
Yeah.
What was that?
How was that?
If I got a third question, I think I'd also like to ask about virginity.
If he was a virgin?
Well, both his mom, but also him, if he was fully human.
His mom.
Yeah.
I want to know about the full experience of humanity. So I think I'd ask if he lost his virginity.
Like, when you were 13, did you have wet dreams?
I was going to say the homebrewed guide to Jesus.
Yeah,
that's reference to nocturnal emissions.
So in ranking order, it would be the Muslim question, the Mormon question, and the virginity question.
All right. Solid.
It'd be funny if it gives short answers, and then you're like, yeah, but how did you handle your fully human adolescence with the testosterone and stuff? You're like, I just want to know, like, how'd that go? And he just went.
But what would be the danger of asking that question? What if he's like, no, I kissed dating goodbye?
Oh,
yeah.
That's the inspiration for the book.
What if he gave me like the youth pastor talk, don't touch your naughty parts?
What if he was like, well, I was married, my wife died, I was pretty depressed, wasn't eating, had a ecstatic religious experience with my theoretical cousin, and then Satan started talking to me and stuff, and I was like, well, bump it. Most of my friends my age are dead. You don't live that long now. I'm just going to lean into this. And then, so you find out that he had a family, and some tragedy happened, and the next thing you know, he has his in almost a midlife crisis with John the Baptist, but he's like a 8 on the Enneagram. So when the Herodians took out JC's just like, bump this. You think I'm just going to sit outside at the river and talk junk? No, I'm going to troll you all up and down Galilee. And
if I got a fourth question, I would say not a question, but a comment.
Jesus, I got a comment.
I got something I got to clear up with you, bud.
No. What I would ask about is I'd be like, you're the one who hid the dinosaur bones, right?
Yeah.
You tucked those in because you really got people going, man.
That was a good work, man. People still talk about it.
I thought you were going to be like, so what is the metaphysical status of Tom Bombadil? Like, he's the eldest, but.
Can I tell you how much I love Tom Bombadil, by the way?
Oh, yes. That's my next question.
My favorite thing,
love Tom Bombadil.
My favorite thing is that Peter Jackson left it out of the movies, because for those of us who read before the movies came out, read the book, I would always ask people as a litmus test. It was my shibboleth.
Ooh.
I would ask them about Tom Bombadil, and if they didn't know who he was, I'd be like, "Okay, so you just saw the films. All right, yeah. I see how
you're like, you don't even understand Faramir."
Yeah,
look at you, this little movie.
I was Tom Bombadil for me is gatekeeping. I love it.
Oh, I love Tom Bombadil. I thought you were going to say it because he's essentially the Anabaptist witness in Middle Earth.
Oh, that's a good one. Do you know that he was one of the 9 Astari? Right, he has the same power level as the Balrog and Gandalf.
Well, didn't it kind of depend on which of his explanations in the letters and history of Middle Earth? And there's just one where there's one letter where he talks about like, oh, well, why did Elrond know, like, you can't leave a ring with him? It doesn't affect him, but you can't leave it with the guy. And Elrond's whole explanation is like he's just kind of like not interested in the whole game of power.
Yeah,
he's so like pre-power that if you leave it there, he'll just forget the ring. Someone to come take it, and in the letter where someone asked Tolkien about it, he's like, it's not rational to be pacifist, but it's an important witness to the nature of the universe. Huh. And that's what I thought you were going to go with. Because plus he's one of the like original rappers. Like he was freestyling in the woods. He sees a forest and he's just like, you could walk in the forest and just notice nature. You could think about it, or you could jump and click your heels while you rhyme.
I would love to ask Jesus, if Jesus was in front of me, a question in Chris Farley mode, and be like, hey, Jesus, do you remember when you said, sorry, I'm really nervous. Remember when he said that we should love our enemies and pray. Oh, I'm so stupid. Pray for those who hate you. Remember when you said that? Is that true? Did you mean that?
What if you did all that and you're like, do you remember you said that? And Jesus is like, yeah. And then you're like, did you have wet dreams? Jesus is like, Josh, why did you make this prompt?
It's a good prompt. All right, well, I'll try to rein it back in here. So, within like the Christian tradition, I would say that there are various models of God that exist, right? Like the Calvinist God is vastly different than the God of process thought, for example. So, knowing that that's true, and we have all these different models of God.
Yeah.
What makes a model of God worthy of worship?
Oh boy.
How do we decide?
You mean besides ontological existence?
Yeah.
So here's what I would say. This is actually one of my things that drives me crazy, is that when people don't take seriously critiques like Fairbox, that we need to be careful that we're not just supersizing ourselves and projecting it onto the heavens and basically worshiping a big us. I can't tell you how many people tell me like that they think God is X, Y, and Z. And I go, sounds a lot like you, just up in the sky, and they'll say, or here's the other one, is they'll frame it in the negative and they'll say, if that is what God is like, I want nothing to do with God. Right. And I just think, well, who are you, you little pissant? Like, you don't get to say that. But I have a different perspective on it. Look, if God turns out
that pastorally,
yeah, that's not my pastoral voice. Look, if God turns out to be just a big version of Mark Driscoll, still God. Or if God is a poop throwing monkey,
whoa,
right? It's still God. So whatever that God is like, if that God gets to decide if I go to the good place or the bad place, I want to be on that God's good side.
What about the neutral place?
The neutral place?
Yeah, have you seen the Good Place show? The TV show?
Hey, man. You should know this about me. I'm a little bit of a media hipster. If too many people like something or recommend it to me, I can't. I developed a taste aversion.
Don't watch it. I promise if you watch it, I would not want to talk about it.
So many people have told me that I should watch it that I'm already over.
It's terrible. It's
don't watch
worst show.
If I dare you not to watch it.
Here's the thing. I basically only watch media if there's nudity or explosions.
Oh.
Right? And so because I have enough talking in my day, like I get paid to listen to people talk. I have to answer the phone. People talk. I don't need more talking.
Is this what happens at the dinner table when y'all are trying to decide what to watch? You're like, you're like boobs and bums.
Boobs and bombs. But here's the thing, man. Like, the truth is, you know, I've been married 31 years. We're at that point in our relationship where I just sit next to her while she watches the BBC, right? Baking shows and murder mysteries. And I don't actually watch my own television shows.
What about like just English dramas where everything is like,
we watch them all.
You're like, if they didn't have a cool accent, the show would be horrible.
If it's about midwives, we watch it. If it's about veterinarians in the 18th century, or we watch them all. We just watch everything.
What about YouTube videos on how to fix bikes?
Well, that's what I do. I watch videos. I watch YouTube videos. If I could only pick one, I mean, it would be a standoff between Instagram and YouTube, but I'd have to go with YouTube. I love YouTube. Because YouTube, by the way, also has it has tutorials on it.
Uh-huh.
I can't tell you how many things around this giant church building or my fixer-upper home that I had to watch tutorials about, and then I was able to pull it off and save myself some money.
There you go. You didn't even have to ask a question to get that.
That was a freebie. Bo is generous. All right. Which one would be fun? All right. What religious tradition outside of Christianity have you learned the most from?
Quakers.
They're Christians.
Yeah, Bo.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Do they count? Okay. All right.
Do they count?
That was a joke.
Phil count?
They're not. Well, they're not Protestants. But yeah, I guess so. Okay.
They might be Christian. No. They're definitely not American. They're against killing.
So I would want to say a Native American tradition, but here's the thing. I can't say that because I've learned so little. I mean, it's the one I've learned the most from, and I still know almost nothing. There is a way of being in the world that it's not, because they don't call it Native American spirituality. That's not like right, and it's not a religion. It's not organized religion. It's a way of being that it is, to me, it is such a transgressive, persistent witness in my life about my own complicity in colonial and patriarchal Christianity. And it drives me crazy. I wish I knew more, but it's the one that's impacted me the most. But I'm embarrassed to even say that.
Trip, I want to ask you the same question.
What
religious tradition outside of Christianity has been most helpful to you, or have you learned the most from?
Does like Greek philosophy count as one?
Sure.
If you count like the whole,
they're going to ask if the Catholics
Socratic tradition, than that. But if it's like one of the major ones, then it's Taoism.
Nice. Okay.
Really? You like Taoism?
Yeah.
Sort of a free spirit thing?
No. I mean, it's very process adjacent. And I find like one of the things about Taoism is thinking about the nature of the way, and this would be process language, where it like imminent orientations towards possibility are thematized in creativity in Taoism, which for kind of theistic process thought happens between God's relationship to creativity. And you have different kind of assumptions about what it means to habitualize or ritualize or orient the different practices of orientation, when the presence that one has responded to is both like coming in from behind, right? Like that you found yourself in a sense in this current, and meeting you before. I feel like when I got really interested in Taoism and was reading the Tao, the next time I read Whitehead, I feel like there was all this clicking of it. And then it helped me understand and appreciate the more ritual, liturgical, like religious tradition as wisdom tradition, practice-centered parts of the Christian tradition that I don't think I would have gotten if I hadn't had this kind of like intellectual fascination with it, read it, found it practically helpful, raising questions. Then it renewed elements within process thought I hadn't paid attention to because I was asking different questions than the ones you ask as a Christian. And then it helped me rediscover a kind of like wisdom in parts of Christianity that I before would have related to in a kind of iconoclastic or let me get to the essence or this kind of thing, as opposed to going, well, what if all the things you're inheriting actually contain wisdom and they may not even know their own logic of the wisdom, but it's like part of this way. Then it's a different kind of discernment that's there. It also recognizes it doesn't require the legitimation of agency and value for non-human neighbors, and it's just presumed. So that also was an element of it. That's
whenever I read comparative religions, it's always Taoism that I'm like, if I had to be something else, I think that's what I'd be, because I love the way of wandering. I love the nonconformity. I'm intrigued by the natural purity. There's so many elements to it that appeal to me.
All right, Josh, what's our last question here? Ooh, you got to pick a good one.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'll give two options, and Bo can choose which one he wants to do.
All right. Look at this.
It's a follow-up based on what we just talked about, and it harps, goes back to the why are you not an atheist question. And I want to ask, why are you still a Christian? Or do you believe in extraterrestrial life? And if so, what are the theological ramifications?
And that's a difficult decision. Which there are two roads.
You could say I'm a Christian because I believe in extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, you're like, I'm a Christian because Jesus is a Martian.
I am still a Christian, and I think it's because I have just been so fortunate, and I'm so grateful and humbled by this, that at every step of my journey, I have encountered a guide or a wise person or a friend who either in the positive said or did something that was very nurturing or helpful or instructive, or in the negative, I saw a shipwreck on the shore and I knew to steer clear of those rocks. I can't believe I've made it this far still being a Christian. It shocks me. I'm one of the only ones I know who's persevered and made it, but it certainly isn't because of anything necessarily virtuous or sympathetic in me. I'm a train wreck. I'm a rambling wreck, who can barely hold it together at points. I handle grief so poorly. It hits me so hard, and I've just stumbled my way forward. Like at the end of my life, no one is going to say that guy walked the road of faithfulness, a long walk of faith in the same direction. People will be like, that guy stumbled, tripped, crashed, got disoriented, turned himself around. How the hell he made it as far as he did is beyond comprehension. So I am, but I don't think it's because of anything inherently that I can articulate or pass on. I have just had the good fortune to either talk with people who have become nuns and duns, who, as I listen to them, I just realize, okay, well, that's not where I'm at. Or somebody who is made different than me. They have a different temperament and personality and history and social location. And they just either point me in the right direction or give me just whatever that one step is that I can get over the next hurdle. And I'm just so grateful for the journey that I've had. And it hasn't been easy, but yeah, here I stand and I can do no other.
All right. There you go, Josh.
Yeah, well done. Good work, though.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations.
Hey, also, Lori would like really you to know you're normal.
Yes. All too normal.
Yeah, you say that, but I've known you a long time. I wouldn't have used normal.
I know. I actually, I would say, Lori, and I appreciate you saying this. I would say my experience has been normal. I am not normal. I'm a weirdo. I am a very strange person. And if you're in the appointment system of the Methodist and they move you churches, you don't have a choice. You don't interview, right? You don't get hired. So when you show up, people reflect back to you how strange you are. We've never had a pastor like you.
Oh, yeah. And then they see one of your tattoos.
Yeah, so I wear long sleeves when I'm in the introductory thing, but my first Sunday, and I wear a sports jacket until it's time to preach. Then I take off my sports jacket, I put on my stole with the short sleeves, and you can tell people are like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I know. I meant to get you to ask about his tattoos. That would have been a fun question.
Oh.
We can do that.
Well, if you have tattoos, you're going to hell. So
yeah,
they're very problematic. I wouldn't recommend getting tattoos.
Yeah, probably gonna get.
Josh, when you and I were at the Airbnb, I showed you my Lord of the Rings tattoo, right?
Perhaps. I mean, I was also hanging out with the Holy Spirit a lot there.
Oh, I know what it was. You and Ryan were up by the hot tub. I remember exactly what it was.
Yeah. That was the first time Ryan had a cigar. I do remember you showing us. Yes. Yeah.
I love this ticker.
Oh yeah.
Hey, thanks for asking the questions. That was really fun, and I feel honored that I got to be like centered, and that's really a lot of fun actually to answer those questions.
All right. Well, next time, Josh, you're just in the area, you can come back. You can come back and hang out with us.
Sounds good.
Josh and I are going to go see Jean-Luc Marion give a lecture at Duke today.
You stop.
Nope. That's happening.
Story.
It's happening. Yeah. His new, which he says his last book is magnum opus on Revelation, just came out, and he's going to talk about it. And
wow,
I'm pretty excited.
You're gonna
even though when I've watched his YouTube lectures, he talks slow with a thick French accent, and it requires a level of attention that is a bit demanding for me. But I'm familiar enough with him that I think I'll be able to hang in there. I told Cora and Haven this morning, I was like, oh, well, I won't be home when y'all get back, but I'll be back before you go to bed. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to see Jean-Luc Marion. And they ask who he is. And then they're like, never mind, we don't want to know. And I said, I was thinking since he's in North Carolina, it might be good for him to feel welcomed. I could just use a good North Carolina accent and say, hey, Jean-Luc Marianne. And they both look at me like, but no, don't do that. And I said, I can do it and not break rank. Hey, Marianne, I was reading your book on the Revelations, and and Cora says,
pick up a Chris sandwich on the way. Just offend him at every level.
Burger King has ones where you can get all sorts of stuff on it. Cora said, Dad, if you do that, what happens if there's someone there who who sees you on YouTube, they'll know you're pretending. So I don't think you should do it. And I was like, actually, that kind of makes me think it would be even more enjoyable. But
that's pretty funny.
Get other people in on it.
Well, enjoy being
Luke, Marianne.
Enjoy being together today. I'm quite jealous.
My aunt's also named Marianne.
You're really good at this character.
Character is basically how I sounded before I got to Claremont.
Wow.
Hey, Marianne, you want to go Waffle House? They got a service charge for them eggs now. Thanks, Biden.
Oh, boy.
All right. Thank you all for hanging out.